What a great day. Man, I said it last week, I just love this time of year. I love the spring, love the fall, actually love all the seasons. It's just, we complain too much about the summer. We complain too much about the winter. It's too hot, it's too cold until it's too hot or too cold, and we complain again. So, hey, next week we have baptism. Man, baptism, amen. Baptism is one of my favorite things that we do. I wish that every time we sinned, we had to get baptized again because we would just have them lined up all the time. I mean, Richard, that's all we do is baptize him all the time. He'd call me on Tuesday morning, hey, can you come and baptize me? I just love baptism. So if you haven't been baptized, if it's been a very, very long time and you're just in this different place, I'm not saying you have to get baptized again. I don't think you have to get baptized at all to go to heaven. I mean, if you don't believe that, let's have a conversation. That's not an eternal thing. It's just the differences of opinion. The thief on the cross, he wasn't baptized. But it's a great thing. It's the first sign of obedience is what it is. It's just stepping out and going, hey, my life has changed. And so I want everybody to know. So I love being that. I love being a part of that. October the 26th, we're going to have, I don't know what else to call it, just a little fall festival. We're going to have some pumpkin painting going on for the kids. We got maybe some other stuff going on for the adults. It's going to be a great time. That's also the time that we are going. Hey, put that little slide up there. We're also, the first service, this affects y'all. Right here, first service is going to switch between, it's going to go from 9:30 to 10:10. It's going to take up a little bit more of your time, not a lot. I explained why we're doing this last week. And it's just this crazy time that we're living in, and I see it out there. I see that before service, a lot of people sit and talk. A lot of people get caught up on today. And so this is also a time to do that. That gives you a little bit extra time, that we're not in such a hurry. But man, we just live in this escalating world that just keeps changing every day. And so here's what I believe. I believe that we need to join together like never before. Because there's some people that, and I'm not saying there's a difference between first and second service, but there's some people maybe that come to the second service that doesn't really fully understand worship. That maybe they've come, and so we need to worship together. We need to do things together like never before. We need to pray together, and we need to fellowship together again. So that's the biggest reason that we're joining our worship times together. So there's only going to be one chance for singing, for worship. It changes things up a little bit, not for the second service at all. They still come in. It's just there's going to be y'all sitting here with them. And so one thing I ask, and I'm going to keep on asking, is that I look around and some of y'all are worshipers. Y'all know how to worship. So what I'm asking you to do is not only worship, but for the people in front of you and maybe somebody right behind you, I want you to pray for them. I want you to pray, because that's one of the biggest things that I believe when we're worshiping, but we see somebody and we can pray. I mean, that changed my youth ministry in California, because we had 8 to 12 older generation people show up, and all they did was in a balcony, and they prayed for our youth. Changed our service, and it changed everything. So I just challenge you, don't get in a hurry on Sunday morning. I believe this right here, we can get together and we can worship. So that's the biggest reason we're doing it. So not next Sunday, but the following Sunday we're going to do it. So if you show up at 9:30, you just got like an extra 30 minutes to hang out and talk and eat donuts and have a great time. So if this works out, beginning in January, I'm taking way too long with this, but if this works out beginning in January, we'll stop it, or we're going to start it. We're going to keep on going. We're going to have classes. We're going to have parenting classes. We'll have some marriage classes. We'll have some financial classes that will take place every Sunday from 9:30 to 10, and then we'll worship together. So, all right. If you have any more questions, go talk to my wife, right? Sure. Okay. So last week we started this new series, He's Bigger Than. And I listed some things, and I might not hit all your stuff. So just because I don't hit your stuff doesn't mean that God's not talking to you. He's bigger than your anger. He's bigger than your past. He's bigger than your shame, your addiction. He's bigger than your pain, your loneliness. He's bigger than your doubt, and he's even bigger than your wants. God is bigger than your anxiety and your fear. He's bigger than your scars, and he's bigger than your hate. God is bigger than all your disorders, your depression, your prescriptions, your sickness. God is bigger than anything that you're going through. And God exists. God's existence does not require us to understand him. Do you understand that? Because that's so many people quit the church. They don't even believe in God because they can't comprehend him. And if you wasn't here last week, I just challenge you, not because of what I'm this great speaker, you need to go back and listen to it. But it expanded my thought of how big God is. I don't have time to go back through that. It expanded my thoughts that he's bigger than eternity. He's bigger than infinity. He's bigger than anything that you can think of. God, we serve this big God. And how do we know? Isaiah 55, 8 and 9. My thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord. And my ways are far beyond anything that you can imagine. I can imagine a lot. But he just said, man, you can't even imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. So you might be going through something that's tough. And what the problem is, you've been going through it for so stinking long. You've been struggling with something for so stinking long that you think that's who you are now. Because you get up every day and nothing has changed. So now you identify as this problem. You're stuck. You're stuck in the dark. You think because you feel loneliness that you're lonely. You think because you have scars that you're always going to carry around the pain. You think because you have been diagnosed with a disorder, well, that's just now who you are. So we've let the things of this world become bigger than God. Talked about this a little bit last week, and if you wasn't here last week, anybody ever, your wife asks you, or maybe ladies, your husband's not home and you can't find the hammer, and so you're going through the drawers and you just pull something out, and you're thinking that's good enough. That right there, I can nail, I can hang my picture, I can get the nail, and I'm going to hang it using a crescent wrench. Anybody ever tried that? Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's okay, right? A lot of times it don't work. You'll end up messing something up, and finally, man, if you don't have the right tools. And that's what we're hoping. We're hoping sometimes we just come in on Sunday morning, that Sunday morning is going to fix our problem. We're just going to hack at it. We're going to hack at it. We don't have the right tools because all we have is our Sunday morning. It's all we got. We don't read. We don't pray. We don't sit at his feet. We don't understand his voice. We're listening to all these other voices. We get so anxious. We get so worried about what's going on throughout the world. Stuck in the dark. You let that divorce become bigger than God. You let those prescriptions become bigger than the God that you serve. You've forgotten about the rest of your story. Satan's really good at letting us forget about the good things that God has done and just worry about all the bad things. And the people that don't know you very well. That's the reason that fellowship is so important. Man, I might not know that much about Brian, but if we can sit and drink some coffee, because all I know is the middle of his story. I don't know his childhood. I don't know some of the things he went through. But man, if we can sit and talk. See, some people don't know you very well. They're just seeing the middle of your story. They don't know who you are. You've made these false assumptions about yourself. And the people around you have made these false accusations just because of what they know about you today, based on what they know just about today. You've let the enemy convince you just because you're going through a season in your life, just because it's maybe taken longer than what you thought, that this is who you are. And you will always feel this way. And you might always think this way. But they don't know you. They don't know you the way that God knows you. They don't know that intimate part of you. Remember last week we talked about how God is bigger than infinity? God is bigger than your past, and he's bigger than your present, and he's bigger than your future. It's time. Just think about it almost like a book. It's time just to turn that page and see what the next chapter has for your life. It's time to let God just turn it, because you've been stuck on that page for so stinking long. You've been stuck on that chapter for so long in your life, and it just keeps going and going and going. You ever heard of a guy named Gideon? I haven't talked about Gideon in a long time, and a couple of weeks ago I heard somebody else speak about this, and way different than what I'm going to talk about to you today, but it kind of sparked the Gideon story back inside of me. And I told Tammy, I said, I haven't talked about Gideon in a long time because I identify with Gideon so much. And so this morning, I'm going to talk about him just a little bit. If you want to read the whole story, I'm going to talk about it. I'm not going to read a lot today. You can go to Judges chapter 6. Great story if you haven't read it in a while. So why is it so hard for us? Why is it so hard for us to not to turn to God when we're struggling with things? When we're going through hard times, why is it so easy to do everything else? But whether you call it coming to church or building that relationship more with God, we try everything else because we don't want anybody else to know what we're going through. Because that's not usually our first knee-jerk reaction. Most of the time we try to fix it ourselves, don't we? And we grab something. We grab a tool that wasn't meant to be used that way. And we'll come back to God when we get it fixed. We'll come back to God when we get our life together. Why is it so hard when we're going through some really tough stuff and we're experiencing that pain and that difficulty and that what we call hell on earth? Why is it so hard for us to look to God and realize that he's so much bigger than our problems? I told you if in 2 weeks we might have a little fun. We might get some stuff up here and smash it. But when we let God, we allow him in our life. We allow him to take care of things. Man, he is so much bigger than our problems. He's so much bigger than our pain and our issues. That is one of the enemy's first lines of attack, is to get our eyes off of God. That's one of the first things he tries to get us to do. And sometimes we go to the wrong place. We're hanging out with the wrong people and going to the wrong place. So Gideon is in this place called Ophrah. Not Oprah, but Ophrah. Okay, it's got kind of a PHF sound to it. And war is happening. I mean, it's a bad day for Gideon. And it's time to fight. Somebody say, it's time to fight. There you go. So Ophrah, here's what it means in Hebrew. I didn't know this till a couple of weeks ago. You think, okay, Gideon is this, okay, if you know the whole story, but Ophrah in Hebrew means baby fawn. That's what it means, okay? So when you're going to battle, the last place you're going to need to be is in Ophrah, right? If you're in Ophrah, what's that mean? That means you're wearing your onesie. You got your onesie on. You're watching the Notebook. You're eating fat-free yogurt and listening to the Jonas Brothers, okay? That's what I think of. It is. It's the best girly thing I can come up with right there. He's just sitting around and he's worried about everything. That is Ophrah stuff right there. Gideon is not preparing to fight. Gideon is hiding. Gideon right now is dealing with his insecurities. We can look at Gideon's life and I can name so many of those things that Gideon is dealing with right there. Gideon is struggling. How many of you know somebody who's struggling? They just are. Maybe they're making some bad decisions. Maybe they're actually hiding from who they actually are. So in Judges chapter 6, verse 12, so when the angel of the Lord appeared, so let me just stop right there. So anytime in the Old Testament that it says that when the angel of the Lord appeared, you know who that is? It's Jesus. Okay? So that's Jesus, the Son of God. Okay? So when the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Wearing a onesie, eating fat-free yogurt, right? No, that's not what he's saying, man. I want to stay right there because that is so amazing. Because he's hiding. He's got these insecurities. He's got these problems. But God saw something in him that he didn't see in himself. He's calling out something from his future. Not where he's at today. He's calling something. I'm getting way ahead of my notes, so you're probably going to hear me say this again. He's calling him, hey, I see something in you that you don't even see in yourself yet. This is a future that what Jesus is speaking into him. Mighty warrior. God shows up and says, mighty warrior. Gideon looks around and says, man, who are you talking to? While he's reaching over and hitting pause on the Jonas Brothers CDs, right? God saw something in Gideon that no one else saw, not even himself. Hey, mighty warrior. See, you think that Gideon, if Jesus showed up today, what would we probably all do? We wouldn't stand here, would we? We would probably fall on our face, right? We would probably hide our face because his glory, everything would be so strong. So this is what he does. Gideon doesn't do that. He says in the next verse, in verse 13, I try to picture this, how he's saying this, pardon me, excuse me, my Lord. Gideon replied, but if the Lord is with us, how many has ever thought this? But if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Why are we going through this? Why are we going through all that pain and that struggle and the disorders and what the doctor's saying who I am now? Why has this happened to us? Where are all of his wonders? Where's all of his miracles? That our ancestors told us about? When they said, did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us over to the hand of Midian. Where's this God at that you say is so big? God, if you're so big, then why are you letting all this happen? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my family? Why did you let this happen to me? Gideon was looking at his circumstances all day. All day. That's the reason he was hiding. See, here's the thing. Every day the enemy is fighting over your future. See, you're frustrated now. You got to stick with me and think about this. He's fighting over your future, and you're frustrated now. Today, if you can believe that God has a future for you and that he is bigger than your frustrations. We're frustrated when we grab the wrench, right? We can't find the right tool. We're frustrated with our life. But if you can believe that God has a future for you, you can step over your now. You can step over that and step into what God has for you. And quit hiding. The enemy is coming after your hope. That's really what he's after. He's after your hope. He's trying to get you to hide, to give up, to sit around in your onesie. He is going to try to get you to give up. Give up on hope. That is what he's really trying to get you to do. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for. How many of y'all have hope? You have hope. For an assurance about what we do not see. if you've let all the fear, the pain, the loneliness, the shame, the addiction, the anxiety, the disorders, the prescriptions, the sickness, if you have lost your hope, then your faith doesn't have any assurance. There's nothing to grab a hold of if you don't have any hope. How many still have hope? Everybody say hope. Hope. I'm dealing with my pain today, but I have hope that God is bigger than my pain. You might have fear today, but I still have hope that God is bigger than whatever you're going through. See, hell is after your hope. I had Satan, but hell, all of the enemy, everything that the enemy has, all of hell is after your hope. He's trying to get you to put on your onesie and go to Ophrah and hide and give up on hope. That your enemy is too big. So you're going to just have to go hide and hope everything works out. See, the enemy knows. He knows. If you lose your hope, it doesn't matter how much I preach. It doesn't matter if you just made it to church one Sunday and you're hoping everything that just works out. It doesn't matter. See, because your faith, if you don't have hope, your faith will have nothing to do. Because you've lost hope. You've given up. There's nothing left. There's nothing else there. Gideon was created for more than hiding. And guess what? So are you. Are you still trying to fight your battles with the wrong tool? Or are you going to let God fight for you? Or are you going to let God's plan work in your life? After Gideon says, "Pardon me, why has all this happened?" In verse 14, the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in strength." Man, he is beaten down. Go in strength that you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? Man, we could be on that one verse the rest of the time. There's just promise after promise after promise right there. The strength that you have, what else do you need today? Except for the strength that God has given you today. There's nothing else that you need. There's nothing else you need to, you woke up this morning, you got to breathe, you got to drive your car here, most of us. And so, man, there's nothing else that you need. Gideon, just get up and go. That's it. That's all God is trying to get you to do, is to go. Get out of this small-minded thinking. Stop it. Quit hiding and quit worrying. Just go. And he says, I'll be with you. When you get up, I'm not going to hang out with you when you're hiding, because that's not who you are. When you get up, I will be with you. I am bigger than your problem. And I love how this story plays out. Again, I don't have time to go through it all. God said, Gideon, put down your yogurt, turn down that awful Jonas Brothers music, and trust me. See, God knows you. God has had your number before you even took your first breath. He knows everything about you. And I challenge you, go and read the rest of the story, because if you don't know it, if you haven't read it in a long time, it's the opposite almost of what we think success should be. Gideon had 32,000 men to go fight. So finally he's like, all right, let's go. He's got 32,000 warriors on his side. God said, that's too much. Now the enemy army had over 1 million warriors, and Gideon just had 32,000. And God said, that's a little too many. So after the conversation, God says, you know what, Gideon, all you need is 300. See, I think it would be easier if God would just make the enemy smaller, right? I think whatever's coming against me, God, if you would just make that smaller, right? Just put something really small in their hand and give me something big. See, but God, he don't work that way. God is going to show Gideon and a nation that he's bigger than any army that walks this planet. He's bigger than any problem that you're going through today. Any pain that you have carried on day after day after day after day, any sickness that they said that you had. Gideon, if you just have hope and get up and go. He says it again in verse 15. Pardon me, my Lord. Gideon replied, but how? How can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest. You ever look at somebody and I can't do that. I don't have the knowledge for that. I just can't. And this is where he's at. He's making excuses for everything. I get nervous in front of people. I can't do this and I can't do that. This is all Gideon is doing. My clan is the weakest, the Manasseh. And I'm the least in my family. Man, can he make any more excuses in this verse? Can we cram any more in there? How can I? How can I? I'm weak. I'm tired. I have this diagnosis. I have this disorder. How can I? I take these prescriptions. I have this hate and I have this sickness. How can I? I'm the least. Verse 16, the Lord answered, Gideon, I'll be with you. And you'll strike down all the Mennonites, leaving none. Not one of them is going to be alive. God says in chapter 7, it's not going to be up there. He says, take your trumpets and blow them, your empty jars, and break them, and get some torches and light them. And that's the plan to defeat over 1 million warriors. To play some tunes, break grandma's dishes, and light a match. But guess what? They do it. And they win. See, God is not intimidated by hell at all. God is not intimidated by your diagnosis, your problems. He is not intimidated by your past. God is not intimidated by your difficult circumstances today that you think there's no way out. See, God gave them a kazoo and a match, and they won. Over 1 million warriors. See, the biggest thing about verse 16, is that still up there? Yeah. Verse 16, I'm with you. Word answers it. I'm with you. That's all you need to know today. I'm with you. I'm bigger than your enemies. Just get up from where you're at. Wherever you have identified yourself, wherever your worry is, wherever your struggle is, just get up and go. See, leave all that behind. You can stay where you're at and you can worry all day long. But you can go. How can we? How can we? This is all we have. See, that's all God was saying. Just lay that down. Lay down what you think that you know. Lay that down. Because God is bigger than we think he is. He's bigger than our problems and our issues. He's bigger than all of that. I picked this up last week with one hand and was slinging it around and walking it around. And what did you say, Tammy? She walked over. She goes, you made that look kind of light. She goes, I think I could do that. And she picked it up with two hands and tried to carry it. Your family needs you to go. The people of Stratford need you. You're here alive. One of my kids was so worried about Friday. So worried that something was going to happen. So worried that this world was going to end on Friday because of what some man said about some jihad thing, that everything was going to end. light. And we need to show people that God is way, way bigger than anything that's on this earth. Bigger than we think and bigger than what we've learned. Let's pray. God, thank you. Let me ask you a question before I pray. How many of you's been hiding? How many of you's been hiding behind whatever it is? Whatever it is that you've identified yourself for so long. What is it that you're hiding behind? Because that right there is what is going to propel you. That right there is what's going to help you. When you lay that down and you just go, that right there, whatever that is, and it might not be anything big today. Because when I preach messages like this, I don't stand in front of you and just say these words, man. I have to work through this. This is a sermon that I had to work through. This is something that was not easy for me to stand in front of you because I know I hack at things with a crescent wrench because I'm trying to fix it myself. I know I do. So I know that you struggle with the same things. So today I'm asking you, what have you been hiding from? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. I'm not going to ask you to do anything. I'm not going to ask you to stand up. And all I'm going to ask you to do is just to follow God today. That's it. That's my challenge for you today, is to get up and go and listen to his words that he has for you and your family. He has for you in this community. He has for us in this nation. Because story after story after story, very few times did God go and start with anything more than just one person. God uses people who don't think they can be used, who's hiding, who's struggling, who has pain, and who has suffered. And maybe you've done that, and God, he didn't cause any of that, but he can use that today. It's not too late. The enemy's not at your door. The enemy's already been defeated. All God is asking you to do is go. Father, we love you and we thank you for today. Let this resonate in us. Don't let us just sit by and hide while the rest of the nation is at war. And that's what Gideon was doing. Don't let us hide on a Sunday morning. Encourage us today and let us be warriors throughout the week. Let us go to war and let us go to battle. How can we do that? All this is that you're going to be with us. And you're bigger than anything that we face and any of our problems and our issues. God, we love you and we thank you in Jesus' holy, precious name. We said, amen, amen. We do have a baptism out there. If you haven't been baptized, you want to get baptized, we have a sign-up sheet. I think we have maybe 5 or 6 or 7 already signed up. Have a great and wonderful, blessed week.